Hello, and welcome to the first section of LS 811. As previously mentioned, this course will dive into some key organizational context related to leadership and communication, including but not limited to communication planning, public relations, crisis communication, interpersonal communication, and conflict resolution. This first section will explore some of the origins of communication and leadership and some foundations of communication in general. So many of you may not have had a communication course. I'd like to take a few moments and just talk about some communication foundations that can be applied to contemporary organizational activity. But to begin, I think it might be prudent for us to explore the core question for why this course might be included in the EDD program. And that would be the influence or the impact of great communication on leadership. So first, as a question of thought, what characteristics of great leadership influence effective communication for the benefit of our organizations, stakeholders, and communities? In other words, are there certain personal characteristics? Are there certain professional dynamics that might influence an individual to really stand out as a leader? And so that could include, but once again, not limited to traits such as organizational ability, the ability to analyze an audience, the ability to use the right message across a right medium to have some type of designated outcome, and the list can continue from there. But we also know that there are certain environmental conditions that make skills such as leadership and listening critical. So just take a few moments and think through individually what you would like to see from a communication perspective out of your great organizational leader. So after some thought, you probably understood just how expansive of a question this might be. And so we can help to tailor it to a certain type of communication planning principle. And this discussion will be influenced from a book that is regularly assigned to the next generation of communication leaders, specifically for education, but it can certainly be universally applied to any type of organization. It's called The Communicating Principle, and it's actually by two communication professionals speaking and writing for the benefit of education leaders. Now, it does play off the entendre principle. I know in this case it's spelled as the executive organizational leader of a school, but really there are a couple of principles, meaning foundational concepts, that the authors apply to help us lean into the question of some of the great skills that you try to find and cultivate in organizational leaders, specifically from a communication perspective. Now, one of the great contributions to communication and leadership from the communications perspective or a communication discipline is an intentional and accountable framework for communication. So despite some of the natural skills of becoming a great communicative leader, such as charisma or the ability to understand an audience or use your right vocal tone, this framework, we'll call it RPIE or RPIE, is a really helpful first step to understanding how can we become strong communication leaders and effective communicators for any number of organizations. Now, as you probably guessed, RPIE stands for 4 distinct processes. The first R stands for research. It's obviously important for a great communicator to research any number of insights related to, well, who is my audience? What does my audience know? Or what are their attitudes about a certain issue? Or what types of media might be available for me to use? Or what type of message should I be using? So research is a core function to make sure that we're on the same page as to what we want to accomplish from our communication. The next would be planning, and that could relate to all activities from logistical planning to coordination across a team. Once you have a plan in place, we'll move forward with implementation, so actually enacting the plan to reach a desired outcome. And that leads us to the last step of evaluation, which is looking at the consequences of the communication. In other words, did your communication help effect change in some measurable way? And so RPIE is a great first step or framework for anyone to think about leaning into communication challenges as an intentional way to meet some type of objective that you're setting out.